microphone. The microphone was that mic and not the mic on the laptop. Remember how
I think
people
it is
have-
using the
it is-
owl
it's
mic.
using
Yeah.
owl.
Yeah, it's set up to use the owl.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm loud
Like
enough. I'm
us.
gonna sit over here.
Yeah, you're pretty loud. You can project.
Yeah, I project.
So do you have camp up with? You do? Nice.
We built that in 2000.
Oh,
That's what we just about every weekend.
you really?
Try to.
You keep it up there? And you try to-
No, that's what's great. We have a walk-in basement, a 6-foot door.
Sandy's gonna be a couple minutes late,
And in the
but we can
wintertime,
start the meeting.
Love to win.
Um,
Don't have to worry about
I
it.
haven't
Right,
heard from
right,
anyone
right.
else. They're not making it. So Dave isn't here yet.
I heard, Rick, did Rick send an email
Peter's
saying that he
vacancy.
might be on Zoom?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Do you want us to wait a minute for Sandy or do you want?
No, because we only have like the agenda and then, and we need to add a couple things to the agenda and then she should be here.
Okay,
So, and then because we have people.
I just made like copies of all this stuff, but then like collate. And, like,
So we'll just pass it around like in
Yeah.
school.
Oh, that's, yeah, and then I have to look, this is the stapler I found out.
Yeah.
Nice.
Perfect.
Okay, we're still missing a couple members, but we're gonna bring that meeting to order.
You're having
If
fun
everyone's
anyways.
fine for me to just step in for Sandy for the first
Sure.
couple minutes till she gets here. So everyone have a copy of the agenda?
Do you need like a motion to?
Okay.
Yeah, we will, but there are some I'm gonna add.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I know we received an email from Victoria, a public concern, that we can add under public comments also, so we do bring that topic up. And then Ian had emailed about reviewing the maps, and we'll add that under other business.
I mean, I guess we had a bunch of follow-up action items from last
Yeah.
week, really.
Yeah, and that can all fall under other business.
What about, okay, so you have approved minutes at the end.
Yep, yeah, generally we do that at the end, because then the public doesn't.
Yeah.
So, does anyone else want to add anything, or?
So I emailed back and forth with Victoria earlier regarding public comments and public input. Because we were just trying to decide, like, on the ATV ordinance page, it said any comments sent to her. And so then, we were like, how's that gonna work? Or is anything that is sent to you or the select board regarding this issue then gonna be forwarded to us? And it was after that she
Okay,
forwarded that one
Yeah.
comment, but we did, I just told her that we would sort of discuss.
Yep.
There's different options. She said that she could route everything to Pamela since she's the clerk. And then there's also a few different options as far as, was it Google Docs?
Yeah, I
or
don't, she
Survey
had some really
Monkey?
great ideas for ways that we could
Yeah.
do public comments without actually, having to pay for anything.
Yeah.
and some of the public comments, and I think even this one, the select board's gonna have to address along with possibly law enforcement, and we can discuss that when we get to that.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
just kind of trying to come up with something where, everybody knew, hey, let's,
Yeah, and I think it's good for us to hear, so when we do write the ordinance, we're aware of what some of the issues are
Sure.
that are going
Yeah.
on. Yep. Yep. Did anyone want to add anything else to the agenda?
Just that, oh, sorry.
I guess I was thinking, after police chief review, maybe do map review then, or
Yep.
it ties in together.
Yep.
Then other business, then I'd say review Newport ordinance. If anybody has any complaints. And the other thing was, I want to jump on and, be, and listening to, if we're looking for a survey to go out. I think something that might, I didn't get a chance to read all that traffic study stuff. I think something that might try to tie into do 2 surveys, and just one survey that we could put out electronically, Survey Monkey or whatever other, generally hosted survey is to in-town people. And we can talk about this more
Yeah,
when we
I
get there.
agree. Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
and then do a second survey that we can maybe potentially post out to, one of our, the 802 ATV forums and say, hey, we're working on this out of general idea, like, and anyways, that's where I'm at. Just so somewhere, maybe after Newport ordinance, do survey discussion.
Okay.
Now, I can't remember the other action items we had from last week.
I think that we're.
And a lot of that, I
we've done
think
a lot. I think we're good.
Yeah,
So,
we can
yeah.
lump a lot of that under other business.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
So Rick
I
is
know-
having trouble, he says the passcode is not working.
Okay.
Did you,
Yeah, Jojo, I see you. Yep.
I'd like to know who's speaking because I don't recognize some of these people. I know you, and then there's a guy with a pink shirt, and then there's Pamela, and then there's a guy with a check shirt. Who are they all?
Okay, we can just quickly go around and say our names. I'm Gidget Lyman.
Bob.
Thank you.
Pamela Beslin.
Bradley Sick,
Tim Parker.
You know me, Ian McKenzie. And we also have Loretta Stallknocker and Claude Wayant with the Windsor County Sheriff's present. Thanks for joining, Claude.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda with the changes discussed?
I'll make a motion to approve agenda.
I'll second that.
And you're also taking minutes. Okay, I'm gonna write this down. Okay.
Such as it is.
Okay, so maybe we'll go to the Zoom to see if there's any public comments before we discuss the email. Are there any public comments from anyone on the Zoom?
No.
Yeah, actually, I have one comment. This is Mike Hogan. I live up on Russ Hill Road.
You're showing up as Bonnie.
Yeah, I'm showing up under okay. So in your deliberations, the real concern that I have more than anything else now is noise. And it really came to the forefront this weekend. It was a nice weekend. And it was on private property across Russ Hill Road. There's a brook and a fair distance, but they were riding over on his side, which is fine. It's his property, but the noise was deafening.
Yep.
Definitely. And Russ Hill Road anyway gets a lot of dirt bikes and so forth like that. And that's a whole nother issue. But the thought of having a group of these so close to other houses, even though they're technically on private property, is the noise. And I am really fearful that Russ Hill Road's going to be used as a shortcut to get up to Gee Hill Road to unload their trailers and so forth. I've already seen over the last couple of weekends that occur. And so I just keep that in mind because it's the noise. We had to close our windows to that over the weekend for part of the weekend.
I live near a dirt bike track also. It is. It's very, very noisy. And I
Yeah.
understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
Um,
And not only that, it can affect people's property values, quite frankly.
Yes, and we haven't looked at the map yet, and I do think the goal is to keep the traffic, the shorter distances as possible on any road. But we haven't got that far. We're trying to get public comment and talk with the police department and the planning commission and conservation committee to get input, and then we'll start working on the ordinance and address these as we go through that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. We also received an email about some ATVs on Happy Hollow Road, complaints about those running the road. I would say they're probably people that live on Happy Hollow Road going up and down. I think we need to address that when we go over the ordinance and try to keep that to a minimum. But I think right now there is no ordinance that it's up to the select board and the police department. So really they need to contact the police department at this point. And I know the email mentioned like VAS with the snowmobile, and once everything's set up and we have VASA set up, then we can address that way with the sheriff's department or however that's going to be controlled. So I think unfortunately that is what's starting to happen on our back roads is dirt bikes and four-wheelers running up and down. But at this point, there's no ordinance and there's nothing we can do except take it into account when we write up the ordinance. So, Okay, guess that was just a clearing of the voice. So I guess I don't know of any other public comments, and it doesn't look like anyone else has joined. So we have Loretta, Police Chief of Royalton, and the Windsor County Sheriff Claude Wyant, sorry. I don't know if you guys have any input for us to hear. What your concerns might be, what we should be addressing when we review stuff.
Well,
This is not.
we've had experience, mainly starting last year, we've had experience where the sheriff's department contracts with VASA up there, and the clubs then contact us if they want some patrols, which we did do that in different areas, up in Stockbridge, the club trails go all the way over to Barnard and Woodstock and all over the place. And so they call and they say, hey, Claude, can you schedule somebody on this date, this time? And if we could, we would.
Yeah.
And I've been on the phone with Mr. Hale up there, and I'm trying to get hold of him. But he hadn't gotten back with me, but we've also been on the phone with Chuck Lang.
Yep, that's my brother.
Oh, yeah, I was just talking to Chuck today, and so he said, we'd really like to have you guys up there again. And so I called the office. We don't have everything the sheriffs do, unfortunately, is contract, everything. Big tax base, unfortunately. But anyway, so I told them that we have to have a contract, that the office said they're gonna send the contract up to Mr. Hale to see if they'll sign it. Chuck seemed to think he probably would, but there's still funding there. And once we get that, then we can do the patrols, and the trails open up this Sunday.
Yep.
And so, so they would notify us. And also communicating with Mr. Hale and last year, not only the clubs, but also if there was a particular town in your county, and the town really wanted some extra coverage, they were able to pay some funding like that. So that's getting the funding together. That's all kind of still in the works. I think it's going to come together okay. And we'll be all set with a club that there's in Reading, a club that's in Stockbridge. And the way I understood it from last year, that if we were in another town and we learned of severe problems, they would get a hold of them and they would give us the green light to go up on Happy Hollow for a 4-hour block or whatever. But it all depends on how many people we have, deputies available also, because everybody's short-handed these days.
Yeah.
So that's that as far as the patrol, and we would just basically go out there and just enforce the basic ATV laws, helmet, registration, bass sticker, insurance, these kind of things. We would basically just enforce when we did go out there.
And you generally enforce by the town's ordinance that's set in place?
Well, actually, we would enforce the state laws.
Okay, yeah.
We would enforce mainly the state laws.
Would you guys do general stops? Would you have a stop point ahead, like everybody that comes through and stops, or do you?
But yeah, that's what they do. What they would do is they would have us. We don't have any ATVs or vehicles.
Yep.
Like I said, but they would send us to a location. Chuck or whoever came up there, they send us to a location, and we just be at that location. And every ATV that came by, we'd be checking for those things.
Yep.
Or we might be in a section where they were, the complaint was that they were just flying down through here.
Yeah.
So we'd be parked in that area. Lots of times just the visibility of the police car, slow people down. But yeah.
And so you guys did have a contract last year and did get paid for the extra patrols requested.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a matter of getting this year's
Yeah.
contract squared.
Contract together, yeah.
You're right. Okay. Just clarifying that for.
So when you
Everybody
say
to
set
understand.
to a location, you mean on public roads, or were you actually ATV'd out to a place on the trail to wait?
Yeah, we were out on the trail.
Okay,
And sometimes we were on the public road too. It just kind of depends.
all right.
During those stops or patrols, I mean, obviously, I'm not looking for like specific numbers or anything, but were the violations at all frequent? I mean, like, did you stop many people that didn't have all the required paperwork and?
I wouldn't say there did not appear to be an excess of a lot of violations on those trails, those vast trails. I think there wasn't any at all. There were a few, but it wasn't like one after another after another. It wasn't too bad.
Can you be a little more specific? Because there's like excess, not excessive, and then not too
But
bad.
on a 4-hour shift, I don't think a lot of vehicles, a lot of ATVs were stopped.
Like a hundred, like give us a 10,
depending-
20, 30.
Percentage.
Yeah, and which one, where we were at, there were some places that there were more coming through than others. But there might be 30 coming through, 40 in that time frame that we were there, depending on the day and things. So it's hard, we didn't really keep those kind of statistics.
Oh, but you would have written like a fine or something like that up for that?
There are traffic tickets that can be issued, and there's also warnings that can be issued.
But all of that would be recorded, right? So there would be a record of it?
That should be, there's a record of that. Yeah.
Okay.
How many accidents have there been?
When we were out there were no accidents that we were aware of.
Have you guys had to report to accidents or injury in related accidents or with the rescue?
I'm trying to.
Or investigate.
I think we went to, by the best of my memory, and we did go to one in Plymouth, ATV accident, but we haven't seen a lot of, we haven't responded to a lot of them, state police will go, or the local police departments will go. We're just in there a short period of time, doing that little extra coverage.
Okay, Plymouth, yeah, you would have been like up in Five Corners. I was trying to think, like, oh, there's really not much in Plymouth, but there is Plymouth Five Corners, but then otherwise, yeah, you go into Reading, so, yeah.
Other than the like scheduled patrols where you go out and wait, do you get many calls just from drivers or homeowners or, just?
We don't get very many at the sheriff's office, so it would be more that you call the state police or the local police department. We don't get very
The majority of the violations that you see is that lack of helmets, speeding, reckless driving.
I would say last year, one of the largest ones was lack of a helmet. And there was some with
yeah.
insurance.
I'll just take a picture of this and send it to him.
So as far as reckless driving and all of that, that was minimal.
We didn't seem to notice that too much. We really didn't.
I guess the statistics, at least, that came out in that report are that between 2013 and 2021, 42 people in Vermont died. So that's about 5 a year, I guess, although I assume it's more frequent now, but I thought that was interesting.
You also got to understand those are statistics that are statewide are for personal use as well, not just the trails. So you're talking about accidents that happen at home. And so if you would go back and look at maybe what's just on trails, that would probably be more pertinent to what you're looking for here. Because I know of several accidents that the state police have responded to, not in Royalton itself, because we haven't had any, but in the area that were on personal property. It was either a young person being dumb and or
Yeah, absolutely. Like, last year there was a girl that died, I think in Bradford or Corinth area, but that was like at a night at a party or something.
Right. Yeah.
One girl was driving, didn't know what she was doing with the machine, rolled it, and unfortunately killed her friend. Like those aren't like in the trail situation. There was another kid that died in Eden, I think a couple of years ago. But that was at night. They were drunk and they were doing things, they were generally illegal anyways.
Right.
So that was another, and again, I'm not trying to downplay her you really got to look at these statistics and understand. I mean, it's the same thing like, numbers. I was trying to look at traffic study stuff already. We've already had 22 deaths on Vermont highways this year. Our usual average is 14 in the 10-year. The 10-year average is 14 a year. By this point in the year, I mean, the 2019 before COVID happened, I mean, we were up to like 58 or 60 by like, I remember because like there was like a lot of deaths in 2018, but or 20, maybe it was
We're up
2019.
to 23 now.
23 now.
Yeah.
I mean, and just trying to put these things in bigger, broader pictures. I mean, every life, of course, is very important. The unfortunate thing is the statistics and the way they go, it's tough to try to really, look at that with how are these trails going to impact or not impact that. Obviously, is there going to be more exposure? Yes. If people follow the law, follow the rule, which is the hope. And if not, then that's where hopefully we have the enforcement.
Ian, what's the speed limit in town that you're proposing?
In town, I'm pretty sure town-wide was a 20-mile-an-hour more.
That's just 25.
25 in most places, but I mean, any location that is a blind corner, sight distance oriented, child traffic, horses, whatever, pedestrians. I mean, we ride trails all the time and we see stuff like, we know we go right by we go 5 feet off some camps, decks in certain parts of the state. And it'll say, 5 mile an hour ahead, like blind corner, closed house. So we have places where we do have to ride 5 miles an hour.
And I will admit, just for the record, I got stopped doing 15 in a 10. God's honest truth. I got pulled over by the local fishing
I've been-
game in New Hampshire.
I've been pulled over for doing 32 and a 25. I mean,
And I admitted I was doing 15 in a 10.
but I'll admit it. I've had situations where I'll say it, years ago in town, I was riding mine on the road, driving up somewhere that here's a woman and her dog walking. I mean, I wasn't doing 20 miles an hour, and from me to probably almost Route 14, I can see them waving, stop, and I'm like, by the time I get to them, I kind of stop. I'm like, you guys okay? Well, our dog's out here. We didn't want you to hit it. And there's a big perception of fear when they see these vehicles coming, that there's, a mountain bike could have been coming and going just as fast and caused just as much, potential chaos. It's one of those things that I've seen it and I come to a stop. I'm like, man, I'm not going to hit your dog. I was doing 20. I came to a complete stop. Like this is not a situation where, so 20 in these vehicles is not dangerous.
Well, so going back to the speed, like in part of the map that you're proposing, it uses highways, Route 14 and North Road for sections where the speed limit's 40 miles an hour. So if you've got ATVs or UTVs pulling out into those sections of the road, maximum of 20 miles an hour or whatever, and you've got 40 mile an hour traffic coming through there, these aren't like bikes that are over on the shoulder. How does that work out in these stretches where, vehicular traffic is going the speed limit, which is 20 miles an hour faster than these machines can go? How does that affect traffic flow?
One thing to think of first. There's mountain bikers that ride those roads. There's tractors that go on those roads with triangles. How do you think they navigate?
Well, bikes on roads are usually on the shoulder.
Not
And-
necessarily.
Well, I know, but I mean, nobody's gonna say that bikes don't impede traffic at certain points, but these are much wider than bikes. I mean, the particular spot that I'm thinking of is like, in front of Eden's and the
Village Pizza there.
and Village Pizza, because we pull out from Royalton Hill there all the time, cars come through there fast. I mean, it's kind of, you can't really see them until they come over right there by the butcher shop. And that's just one area of concern that I would have, you know, with these machines pulling out into that traffic. It just seems like there's a potential there.
So I don't understand. Are we gonna do ATV trails on main roads, not on class 4 roads and other?
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I
there's
mean,
a lot
a whole lot of
of
it's
those.
class 3 and also some actual, I mean, Route 14 and North Road are the two that I can think of. And then also a pretty big stretch of Royalton Hill as it goes up the river there
We're
until it
looking
hits
for
the,
them to connect to other.
I think as we figure out the trails, though, we can figure out where there's safety issues. Like Royalton Hill is that hold my breath every time I pull out of there.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there's cars going 60 miles an hour and you don't see them until you're already halfway out.
and that was my
Royalton Hill, they
point
come up,
of,
yeah.
you know, adding some slower moving traffic in there. You know, and sure, there's an occasional bicyclist out there or an occasional tractor. So we have to be careful when we're driving regardless, but creating a certain specified route that these machines would have to be on is sort of concentrating some additional traffic in some of these spots. And that, I mean, like I say, that's a spot that I pull out of there multiple times a day. And I would have some concern.
This is something I intend to bring up with V-Trans. I still haven't gotten comments from them. I've got the emails I've sent to them on these specific locations. The only thing that we could say is these are locations we already have existing concerns that maybe we need to bring up to them that, hey, the sight distance here is just not what it needs to be. Maybe that section needs to be knocked down to 25. Maybe we need some flashing yellow lights. And I will go back to one of the emails I got from the city of Newport, and I can distribute it again. It was I almost put it in my Newport packet tonight, but I didn't because it was in the town meeting thing. I got emails from the city manager and the city mayor of Newport, and they have like Route 105, a lot of same fast moving traffic. And what they found is it actually provided a traffic calming effect because there's different places where there are all these yield signs, watch for ATVs, watch for, it's just the same thing as like, the problem is, of course, over time, people, when signs first go up, everybody pays attention to them. I can't tell you how many times driving to Norwich last year when the traffic was one lane to the left, the day they switched the traffic back right, everybody almost, I watched 5 cars almost come into a complete accident. So everybody was trying to get in the left lane, but then they didn't even realize the barrels were in the left lane. They all had to get back in the right lane. Like, because everybody was already trying to do 80 in the one lane. And it's the unfortunate human nature of what happens. But the only other thing you could do there is reduce the speed because there is a sight distance issue at that location.
Yeah, and that's why I
We do
just
have a
brought it up
question
since
on that.
Chief was here,
Yeah,
just
we
to,
hear from-
because that's those are some specific areas that,
Yep.
honestly, I
actually
think we should
had-
avoid.
I had 8 cars coming out of there.
We
let
see
alone
you,
anything
Jojo.
else.
Yeah, Jojo,
So,
we
yeah.
see that you have your hand up. Just a second and we'll get you to.
Thank you.
Do you want to go
Stop in
ahead?
Montgomery,
Or-
that
It doesn't
side
matter.
by
we can take
side
Jojo's question.
or ATVs, any of it,
Sorry.
go to speed limit of the traffic. They're not 25. And that you'll see that in places that they want you to travel, the speed of what's posted. So we can regulate what we have for speed. So you make a very valid point,
Yeah,
as Ian does, like with the tractors and all that. Because everybody knows that's the Vermont traffic jams when you get behind a tractor.
oh, yeah.
So,
And definitely, I agree with you, but do we want to,
but it's a point that we
Can
need
we
to,
hear
yes.
from-
We
yeah.
either have Jojo a question or Loretta needs to go, either one.
I'm here for the duration, so wherever you want.
Okay, well, maybe her
I just
question
gotta go
will
first in case he's
correlate
gotta
to.
go, so.
Yeah.
Oh.
all right, Jojo.
Oh, I thought it was in response to what Brad was saying.
Thank you. My question is, what has the state had to say about crossing or traveling along state routes?
Are you asking the sheriffs here? I mean, there's written documents on that, Jojo, we could share with you.
I'm asking whoever can answer my question, what does the state have to say about the, whether they will okay or not of ATVs traveling along state routes?
They do a survey first,
Well,
correct?
yeah, they do a survey. There's, I mean, I would have to bring up the discussion. There's certain instances, if there is space, they do allow them to travel within the right of way, but then you gotta get a V-Trans 1111 permit. Generally, yes, you do want to have crossings at 90 degrees or you stay in the traveled way is actually, I mean, it's a case by case, you know, deal there. It's not necessarily a, you know, they understand it's not a one, you know, package fits all thing.
So did you?
And I shared
talk to the
that.
state?
I did talk to the state and they gave me the policy back and I thought I distributed that in
The
last
state-
week's email.
Yeah, we have that, but you talked to the state, the Vermont Patrol about this, about the plan and what they perceived as being traffic issues.
I haven't gotten
traffic
comment back
concerns?
yet, though.
Oh, okay. So
But they
okay.
gave me there's a policy document, Jojo,
Yeah.
that
I've seen that.
if you want, that describes through these steps of either sharing the shoulder of the road or not, I don't want to say like shit, you know, being in the traveled way.
Get as close as you can to the side.
Right, so there's option A, you'd look at it as sharing traveled way. Option B, well, I guess, sorry. Option A, you know, cross at a 90 degree. Option B, travel, you know, in the traveled way. Option C is get an 1111 permit from V-Trans to be within the right of way, off the shoulder, and then develop a gravelled surface that is suitable for travel.
Thank you. Is the thing that you just mentioned something you can email to me also?
Sure can, Jojo.
Well, Jojo, we're doing, there's on the town, like an ATV, like website that's identified for all of these documents that we're gonna keep in one place. So, I can send that out to everybody, but it's, you just go to the, you know, the town's website and look for the ATV committee. And we're putting all of our links and documents and maps and everything in there.
It hasn't been in there yet.
It's just got the first set of minutes up there now. What it's gonna continue populating.
Thank you. I wasn't able to find it today, so that's why I asked.
Okay. I thought Victoria put it up last week, but maybe not. But
It was not there.
It's
It wasn't
live.
even
Maybe
there today.
it's live. It's maybe the link isn't there, but we can give you the address. It's there.
Oh, give me the address, please.
I'll send it to you.
We'll send it to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Loretta, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I forgot what I was gonna say, sorry. So you wanted me to talk about,
Yeah, I'd like to know
My
your
opinions
perceptions.
or-
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm kind of two hands. I mean, obviously, we don't like ATVs to use the roadways on a regular basis because that's just not what they're meant for. Obviously, you know, we let snowmobiles cross in a few places, use like up on Gee Hill, there's a section that's they use and that works fairly well. I don't see that it will be for like a group that's law abiding. Now, obviously, there's always gonna be those people that are they're gonna violate whether they are in, you know, are in agreement or not. But I think having a group and an ordinance is going to allow those who are law abiding to be able to have some fun and they're gonna follow pretty much the, you know, what they need to. But I do agree that you have to be careful where we're putting the crossings, make sure that, you know, that they're safe and, you know, and things like that. So, I mean, you guys are looking at the map and I don't exactly remember every crossing that was, and I know not Geo, Royalton Hill Road does have some traveled portion. I know for snowmobiles, it crosses 14 and goes up Key Hill. And that hasn't been, I've never been called for an incident there. Now we get called all the time for Happy Hollow and residents, some residents running up and down with their ATVs. That's been since the 3 years I've been, almost 4 that I've been here. You know, if we catch them, we catch them. I can tell you that I did catch one and they continued on and I followed them, but then they went off road and I lost them. So because they're wearing a helmet, I mean, I know who it is, but can I prove that? No. So, but those are not the people that are gonna be probably on the trails a whole lot. Those are the ones that are gonna be tearing up neighbors' properties and, you know, stuff like that. And I'm all for if there's a complaint, calling that in and we'll do what we can. And I think a lot of that's the group's gonna help because the group is gonna be around, they're gonna know everybody who's on ATVs and maybe be able to give me the heads up like, oh, I heard so-and-so, this was so-and-so. Maybe that's gonna help in the long run. But in other aspects, they also keep their own members and hold them to the letter of law too. Otherwise, you know, they don't get to play with them. So, you know.
And we've literally put that in, you know, our club bylaws is that if a certain person were to, you know, get more than whatever 2 violations, it's, you know, they would be expelled from the club and not allowed to ride. And I mean, quite frankly, it, you know, it sucks at first, but if I gotta call someone in because they're not following the rules that we're setting forth, that's what we gotta do. We're not putting all this work in just to have 1 or 2 yahoos, you know, ruin this for the rest of us. And whatever the legal due process is what we'll have to follow. And I think, you know, just following up with, you know, not only just that, but with the ordinance, and, you know, I think Laura and I had, you know, emailed some before, but by giving her perhaps an ordinance that has some teeth to it so that we can have numerous different enforcement violations. So like, hey, this is illegal, this double file riding, or you rode in a place that you weren't supposed to, and it sets forth what the ticketing fine is. Because yes, there is some stuff that's in the state, but you know, we can make it, you know, once it's, you know, active and we have some teeth to it, it's like, guys, this is you know, this is where you're going to get fined by not following the rules.
So are you saying that your club members are going to be acting as law enforcement on the trails? Is that?
I'm not.
In a
No, they
roundabout
can't.
way, yes,
Okay.
because what even Vasa will tell you that if they see a violation, because nobody wants these trails shut down that are active members, that everybody has to have a registration number. And it's quite easy for just to pull that number up, tell Loretta what the violation is, and she takes it from there. But she can't do that unless.
I'm so crazy. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, and how is that person ever gonna have to be required to pay that because they weren't spotted by law enforcement? Like, that doesn't work, right?
So having those eyes is wonderful, yes. It allows us to know who's doing those violations. I would probably give them a warning. I would not write them a ticket because we do have to see the violation. Unless it's something egregious and you were willing to go to court with me, traffic court, but being a civil ordinance violation, I guess those would go to the select board, but you know, they would have their due process. And you know, if I don't see a violation necessarily, I'm not going to write for it, but I certainly would be able to talk to that person and, you know, so I mean, I don't want to be violating anybody's rights, but you know, like I said, club members are a huge asset and a resource for us.
So what would the difference be in that situation where, say, Tim called somebody in for an ATV violation, and I called you and said, you know what, there was somebody doing 60 miles an hour on the Oxbow Road. What would you do to them? It'd be the same thing, right? Because you didn't witness it,
if you called in a plate number and I went and looked for the vehicle, I could have a chat with them.
Right,
And, or I could, monitor that area that they were actually doing 60, but no, I would not write them for.
so it's the same
Because,
situation.
I mean, it'd be like me without a radar unit, how am I gonna prove they were doing 60?
Right, exactly.
So,
I mean, the point I was trying to make, it's the same
Right,
kind of
yes,
situation that you can have a vehicle violation and witness it, but, and if you don't witness it, it doesn't do any good.
So one other sort of concern that, like what you just said, brought up is, if you see somebody 60 and you get a plate number and you can say, oh yeah, it was a silver Outback with so-and-so plate going this fast, at least you've got something to follow up with, where if somebody on a four-wheeler is going too fast and, recklessly, somebody takes off the road, there's no license plate.
Yeah, there is. If it's registered, there is. There's
I
a
mean, how
plate.
big is that plate?
They'll have the size of that sheet of paper.
It's visible.
It's about the size of a camper plate. It's red with white lettering,
Yeah,
It's
Reflective.
it's visible.
so there is.
if they're going fast though, that's kind of hard to spot.
Well,
I-
a car
I
going
think-
60 miles an hour going
Well,
fast.
yeah.
It can be, but I mean, even if nothing else, and I mean, just from experience, what we've seen is that like, if we know that there's, a report of something, or someone say they did get a quick snapshot, even if it's a blur. Hey, oh, that looks like a blue Can-Am. This blue Can-Am was seen at 3 PM on a Saturday doing 60. We throw that on our club page, or I throw it in 802 side by side. That thing's gonna get 5,000 views in the next 12 hours.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, a lot of people have no problem tagging right up. Hey, Joe so-and-so was on that trail. And, or we've seen it, or like, hey, there was a dirt bike running this trail pre-season that, we're waiting to have open. And we've seen oh, that's Jim, whatever, that was out with his white Honda. Like, I've seen that quite a bit on the keyboard warriors are the future here of,
Yeah.
being able to sort that out and people finding that. And then whether, I don't know what happened with investigations or not, or if you had enough to go with it, but the thing of it is that it gets everyone's attention, it slows them down, and it gives the opportunity. Because it's no different than the folks that we do have doing 60 up the Oxbow or.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, non-ATV people, they don't know what a Can-Am is. They don't know any of this stuff. And so, like, as far as like a description of a vehicle, it's a little more difficult
Right.
because,
that red thing that went by,
yeah,
yeah.
that thing.
Yeah, and that's
Was
fine.
it like to a lot of the general public, it was just an ATV. I don't know anything about it. I
Right.
wasn't looking.
Absolutely.
And so that was just sort of something that I have been thinking about, was like, when you do see somebody and you would try and report it,
Right.
it's a little more difficult than just reporting like
Sure.
a vehicle, like a car or a truck.
Kind of more importantly for non-ATV people is like, black jacket, red helmet, that type of stuff, because, that's something to work with, because certain people have their certain, it had a flame on the side, because that type of stuff sticks out. If it's seen in the area again, I mean, and they can be stopped, but maybe it's not that person, but the other thing is if the members do know, they can have their own little chat with the people. Hey, don't mess this up. Run straight. It doesn't necessarily have to go to law enforcement,
I think Stockbridge, they'll stop people and say stuff. I think my brother said that, if there's someone on the trail that they don't think's doing something right, they'll go talk to them.
Absolutely.
I'm not really worried so much about people who are breaking the law. I'm just worried about that extra traffic on the roads, and particularly that, crossing that one-lane bridge on 14 to get on Royalton.
The snowmobiles cross it.
I'm sorry,
Snowmobiles cross it also.
but I've never seen a snowmobile, and that's good, because I mean, that's great, but I'm just thinking if it's gonna be like on a weekend, I think crossing could be really dicey. But hold on, my real concern, not my real, but my even more so concern has to do with, in particular, our road, because it is steep and has one blind curve after another. Well, actually, coming up Royalton Hill by putting down roots, the road kind of gets already pretty narrow when there are a bunch of chickens in the road anyway, and like it's already a problem area, but and you can't see over the edge. And at that point, like it all gets to the point where even anybody who's going slowly, that additional traffic and maybe not being particularly aware of exactly what is next, especially for people who aren't from here. See, that's the thing. It's like, I'm not worried about people in South Royalton availing themselves of our roads with their ATVs. I understand that the law doesn't allow us to do that. I'm worried about people who don't know these roads and who don't know that when they turn the corner, there's going to be another blind curve and there's a driveway there and there's a woman running preschool here and there's, dogs there like that. That's the stuff that scares me because, my road is already, it took me, when we moved here, it took a little while to know like where are the places that we're going to pull over when we see somebody, because you have to pull it. You basically can't have two cars at the same time. So that is, to me, that really is like, just straight up like, I'm wondering, aside from the people who might break the law, and I'm, like I said, I'm not as concerned about that. Are you concerned about that?
Well, and I guess Ian, tell me if I'm wrong. My thoughts on how far is like the biggest, because I was thinking it was going from one, just using a piece of the road to go to the next, and there wouldn't be more than, I mean, I don't foresee people being on the road for miles and miles is what I'm saying.
It's a fair amount.
I know, I mean, on the south side of the river, is there any private trails at all over there?
South side of the river.
First Ranch, main one, sorry, the main branch of the White River, the one that all those.
I intended to print it at, I can print this 24 by 36.
Could you?
I'm assuming he's talking about interest number. Which I do.
Some of these really hard to tell where they're actually going.
I was gonna grab my map too out of my car. Mine's in my car.
Or here's a closer one.
So with the map, the green lines are private.
And I thought y'all knew that, but that makes a difference.
Those are private.
So the green, what's shown in green is private. What's shown in purple is like what we're calling our area of interest one. So if you're looking at the piece of text in the bottom center, when the 2 liters going to the purple section, one would be coming from, as we've discussed, I know we're kind of just going into map review, but from Lyman's Tow Garage, doing a 90-degree crossing onto Gee Hill, going up Gee Hill to wherever we hit Jim Good's property, mostly following that green line down to Route 14. You can kind of see that's the intersection with 107. That's where the former Eaton Sugar House is. So, and I don't have the exact like little chunks of, I didn't write down each segment of mileage. I just did an overall for each area. But right now, so say for instance, with area of interest 1, if we follow this path, then, does Royalton Hill to Seawall to North Road to Russo Road, that would include 7,613 feet. So it's like a mile and a third, almost mile and a half of class 4. Private trail footage in what's shown in green would be 10,400 linear feet. So just under 2 miles. Class 2s and 3s used would be the parts of Gee Hill and, Route 14, Royalton Hill, and then whatever sections of those roads that were class 3 is 28,556 feet. So you're talking about a little over 5 miles of class 2s and 3s
So those who are on
in
Zoom,
that
I
area of
just posted
interest.
that map for them, but you guys on Zoom, sorry to talk over you there. If you guys are on Zoom, I just dropped that map in the chat. If you open up the chat, you can see it.
Perfect, thank you, thank you.
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you. Pam.
I spent a year teaching on.
Figuring that out.
On Zoom, yeah, a degree in Zoom.
Put in
So
your.
at least it's useful for something. not that I
It
want
is.
to do
So I got, a
So-
question about the amount of traffic, four-wheelers that are gonna be on this road.
Yep.
Do you see Royalton as a place where people are gonna trailer their four-wheelers to ride from?
Yeah, I see it as probably I would say 50-50. I would see it as you're gonna have, if we do get the connection to Barnard, I would see, on say a given Saturday, if I'm saying, Memorial Day weekend, probably one of the big busiest weekends of the year, short of
Right.
either Labor Day. 4th of July usually gets toned down. Most of the boat people have gone on to play with those toys. Memorial Day, Labor Day is usually probably one of the bigger, busier ride weekends. So again, as Claude said, he saw, say in a 4-hour stint, 30-40 riders in Bridgewater. We're trying to be conservative, 50, say we're talking about 50 riders. Could 25 trailer and park in Stockbridge, Bridgewater, ride over during the day, have meal, visit our services, whatever, ride back, possibly. Could 25 people from Royalton park either at, Lyman's Tow Garage? I don't know if you can, I haven't followed up with them. We definitely put a lot of trucks and trailers down there before when we've met for other Jeep events, but anyways, could there be 25 parked there? Possibly. And then would they ride over to Barnard and back? And that would be like biggest weekend that I'm anticipating, just, knowing what our trailheads can facilitate, what our and just what we see on those busiest weekends here in Stockbridge.
Right.
I'm really thinking if it's a Memorial Day weekend and I can trailer my ATV, I'm going up north where you're not hitting as many roads and you have a lot of miles to go. I don't see that people are gonna be like, yay, Royalton, let's go there. It may be, I'm gonna come here once or twice, check it out. I don't know, that's just my thought, except for the locals will probably.
My biggest thing with the trails that Ian's proposing, there's no attractions.
Right.
Right now, we have no gas stations. So it's a dream, but right now, when Ian's talking about coming from Stockbridge, you're getting low on gas by the time you get here.
Right.
So I don't see a whole lot. I really don't. When Claude was talking about over in Stockbridge and he's seeing, 40 in a day or in a time period. They've got in a very close proximity of, was it 50, 75 miles that Chucky's got over there?
In total, and when you do the loop, we're probably doing the loop on Sunday. The loop we do is about 36, 38 miles.
But it's right in one area.
Right.
Whereas this is going to be pretty much far spread. Honestly, I see old people like me that are just going to go and just putt along, and I'm not blowing smoke. Because I would do out to where I think that, okay, time to turn around and come back.
Right.
And it's not gonna be whale and sail, it's just gonna be, if you had a Jeep or a convertible, and you ever rode the back roads of Vermont, out through the farmland, I'm serious. That's what I see, most of the people that be doing.
Right.
I honestly don't see, because when we were very active in the snow machine club, and the person that wrote in on the concern about
Did he
the
get
vast and all that. Back, Dave
I'll
Lewis
email
was
you.
one of our selectmen, and he got it into town.
Actually, I'll just.
And they came to me because I had to go through and get all the landowner permission for the snow machine trails. And the club came and said, I want all your landowners. I said, go to the town clerk like I did. I didn't have a 4-wheel. I weren't giving nothing up. I wasn't for them, but I weren't against them. But if they were gonna do something, they were gonna earn it. So, and now we're the opposite. It's like, I don't see a major attraction. I really don't. And the Happy Hollow, that's ongoing. That's even before
Yeah, that has nothing to do with.
this club started or the ordinance or anything like. You got your locals, like did you say, you got your locals that are just, our neighbors, one of them used to be. is the reason that the town no longer has the trails in town. You're gonna get your outlaws, no ifs and buts about it, but
Who's the reason?
I won't say that.
That's
But
because we
let's say he was a kid violated and it cost everybody. Because the first year, there was no forgiveness,
Yeah.
none.
I
So
guess-
with this ordinance, it's like we've said right along, we need to write it so everybody's happy with it.
There's so much speculation, that's, that's the thing though, right? Like, we talked about this last week, not knowing the numbers, like, Ian, I still don't know how many people you have, members of your club. And if if we become part of a published map where we're connected all the way up through Stockbridge, which I understand is what the goal is, then in a short period of time, what started out as, starting small, could become something much bigger. And so, to me, that at the very least, suggests that there should be some sort of yearly sunset provision on the ordinance. This is, it has to be renewed every year, or
I think it can be petitioned
it
to
does,
be, or
and-
the select board can
Yep.
make the decision.
Right.
Most ordinances do have a first meeting in January of the year
Mhm.
that the select board hears whether they're gonna continue it
Right.
or change it.
yeah. It's like, go ahead.
And I,
With your comment of with the chickens in the road and whatnot, you take two full-size pickups. That's wider than any one of these.
Yeah, they couldn't. do
Side by
that.
side.
That wouldn't, two full-size pickups can't do that, put it in front of putting down roots. Not without
So they
sweeping
can
the
go
side of
through.
that road.
They'll go through.
I've met a car there before.
Can I just say, Claude was gracious to come today. Is there any other questions for him so he could maybe go, and Loretta, you could hang for a little more?
Oh, thanks, Sandy.
It sounds like you
one-
guys didn't realize that there was gonna be this much actual riding on the roads, right?
One quick question, just so that we can have someone official that can speak to it. So there is the language, I think, more or less provided before. ATVs are a recognized motor vehicle in the state statutes. They pay registration fees. But here's the big crazy thing, and I'd like to know, just in general, your thought is that these are vehicles that pay registration fees. But unless your town has an ordinance, they have no right to ride 1 foot of road in that town. Some people have different opinions. Some people say, oh, well, that ATV could ride a class 4. Well, unless you're gonna unload your ATV at the start of where that road is deemed class 4 out and back, that's all you would have. So I mean, correct me if I'm
They're allowed to
wrong,
cross, like snowmobiles are. They're allowed to cross.
but so would why would I need a registration to cross a public
Well, if
highway?
if you're on like trails, like say like snowmobile, vast trails, that would be why somebody would register their snowmobile. That would be the reason you're registered. And a lot of people don't register their ATVs, so.
There are.
The ones that are out in the field and.
There are a lot, but yes, there are 17,000 registered in the state.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I mean, do you guys know any other type of vehicle that pays registration fees that doesn't generally have legal access to roads that they pay registration fees for?
Besides snowmobile?
Right, because it's the same thing, snowmobiles, you pay all that, unless you have a trailer, the town allows it.
Well, that's a state problem.
I would say, yeah, we,
There's a lot of things we've talked about that are state problems, that are about highway problems, that we've asked them the same things. So I think it's a fair question.
I'm just saying,
I mean,
do
city
you
signs
have to?
discrimination, right?
I'm just a little confused about the registration thing. If you just have a four-wheeler that you use on your property,
You
or
do
you
not have to
trailer to
register
other
it.
property, you don't have to have a registration.
No,
If you leave your property.
or if you take it to somebody else's private property that you have permission to be on, you don't have to register it.
Yeah.
right.
So,
But if you're gonna be on like trails like this,
yeah,
it has to be registered.
I was just confused, because I thought you were saying that if you have an ATV or UTV, you
I
had to
see
pay
you,
registration.
Jojo, again.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I thought that your point was that if you had an ATV, you had to have it registered
to ride, but, so I live in a town where I pay registration fees, but there is no legal riding for the registration fees I pay.
No, but you can go to another town that does allow it, right?
Not unless he's registered. Right?
I think you're missing the concept. The way I think of it, it's like taxation without representation. I am paying for something I can't use in a town that I live in.
Well, you should take that up with the state.
This is step one. Getting an ordinance is a little easier than taking it up with the state. But I would love to have that discussion with any legislator.
So I'd like to go back to what I brought up last week is, we're speculating again, how many ATVs might be on your road. No idea. Right? We're guessing, you're saying it could be 50 on a weekend. We're all saying, we have no idea. I see very few on the Oxbow Road. I'm probably the biggest violator. Honestly, I mean, I'll get on it. Oh, have you? I'll take pictures next time
Yeah.
I'm riding and I'll send them to you.
Where you go, bro?
Yeah. But, we're talking about opening up the whole town, and I don't think it's a good idea. I want to go back to, I think we should pick a section and focus on that section. Put it in, see how it, monitor it. Both from an ATV club, from law enforcement, evaluate how it went. I don't think we should get on to Route 14 going to Gee Hill yet. I think we should take an area that it can be monitored and evaluated, and then make a decision, where do we expand next? If you open the whole town up, you can't enforce it all. If you do it in segments, why do we have to open everything up in 1 year? Why can't it take 2 years or 3 years?
And in discussion, this was just,
Right.
We've said, if it's just area one, then it's just area one. I'm not, just to be clear, I'm
No,
not
I know
asking for the whole
that.
town.
And that's the way I want to focus, because we have no idea how many people are going to ride in this town. I mean, I don't see anybody on the Oxbow Road. Quite honest with you, and if somebody wants to ride a road, there ain't nothing on the Oxbow Road except myself and Ian, my ex-wife. I mean, there's really nothing. And, we can get on the Automero and cut over. I bet you, I don't think I see a half dozen a year on the Oxbow. Will that change if it opens up? Who knows? It may. But I know
Of course it
that.
would.
What's that?
I thought, of course it would, if it's a trail, if it's open to traffic, but
Then you got to get to it. So let's see. I'm only speculating. Now, if we open it up and I see that people are misusing it, I'm going to be the first one to complain and say, no,
Does it have to be misuse though?
not necessarily, but why should I stop somebody from enjoying a ride? Because that four-wheeler happens to make a little bit of noise. I mean, I hear a diesel truck going up that road that at 10 o'clock at night, that'll throw me out of my bed.
On the flip side of that, why should you stop somebody from enjoying their property as they see fit? And,
Sure,
you like it
exactly.
quiet, you like no
I think
traffic.
there's a lot of neighbors that think that about certain things, but you have no control what someone does on their private property, or really a road, state road or town road. You can complain to the select board, but
Right.
if no one's breaking the law,
Yeah, all the more reason to pick a road that doesn't have very many people living on it, so that you have fewer people to piss off. But then for them, it destroys the neighborhood. I mean, that's everything that anybody who's bought anything up on Sewell Brook for the quiet and for the fact that it's a dead end road, that's gone. All that property value is destroyed. I'm serious. And I understand it was very strategic to pick that as your main route. But
I think
I
anyone
guess
takes a
I just
chance
feel
with
like
a
if
class
we're-
4 road or
So-
some town
so
picking it up and
question,
doing everything.
As you understand, there's other people that own properties out there.
yeah,
Right.
There's nothing stopping anyone else on that road right now. If they want to get through Act 250 and do a 50 lot subdivision out there,
I
it'd be
understand
up to them. It'd be up to them to upgrade the road to the town standards
I
of a class
understand
3. So
I've had my hand up for ages and I would like to have a chance to talk.
Sorry, Jeff.
sorry, Joe, it's not intentional.
And so all I'm saying is that, and I understand, I'm sympathetic, I understand exactly what you're saying, but at the same point, this isn't, it's a town highway, it's not
Right, but we would be inviting people who are not in the town by putting ourselves on a published map and connecting to all these other trails. We're inviting people from other places to use our property, thereby eliminating
It's
people
not
who
your
actually
property.
live
It's not
there
your
from being
property.
able to use it.
It's not
No,
your property.
I mean, as in the town,
okay.
that people who live here and pay taxes here and like to use the trails here, we're not gonna be able to use them anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you,
Claude.
Claude.
Thank you for
Thank
coming
you
so
so
much.
much.
Yeah.
Let's take.
Yeah,
Jo-
let's take
Yeah.
JoJo's question. Okay. let's just-
Thank you. At some point, quite a few minutes ago, Ian said that most ordinances have a year-to-year negotiation, and I would like to say that I have never heard that that is true. For the most part, an ordinance is an ordinance, and sometimes it's written in that it might be renegotiated on a year-to-year basis, but that's only time that it would be. So an ordinance is an ordinance, to paraphrase Gertrude Stein.
I disagree with you, frankly.
Yeah, well, I disagree with you too.
And also, you are just public comment, so at some point, like, we are moving on. We appreciate your input, Jojo, but we also have other things going on here that in an agenda follow.
What?
Anyway, we'll put that in our minutes about it and we can talk about it. And like you said, if we do put in the ordinance, we could add that language, JoJo. That it
Thank
needs
you.
to be looked at each year.
But even
And
though
or-
an
or
ordinance,
not.
the men have an option to
That's-
avoid all of
that's-
it.
It only can be so if it is added.
Exactly right. And JoJo, like we said at the very beginning at our meeting last Wednesday, we are just creating, as a committee, we've been tasked to create a draft ordinance. It is the select board who makes the final decision about what that ordinance will be and what's in it. So
Thank you. Okay.
we will absolutely look at seeing if we want to add that phrase in our ordinance draft to them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Any other questions from the people on Zoom? Okay, yeah, we're getting close to running out of time. So let's move on to our next agenda item. I know we went a little bit into your map, so is there anything else you wanted to add there?
Other than that, you know, what I said last week, like this, so what was listed as area of interest too. I think at this point, we are completely ready to scrap that as even being on the table when we get to the time of, you know, discussion. That's probably more something out in the future, but the one thing I would like to say with part of our proposals, just so that everyone's, whatever we do as a VASA club, if we are to get money to improve class 4s, it has to be something that's shown in that map. So later on, like I know I was figuring with a lot of focus and environmental improvements and everything that would need to happen up on McIntosh, Pepperell Road. But if that's not on the table for discussion, I'm just trying to be realistic for what we're looking at. Whenever we come back around to it, I just was trying to leave that as a comment of, you know, when it comes around, that'll have to be something included in the eventual system if we're ever gonna get money to do any improvements up there. So anyways, say that just to say that, you know, we're pretty much ready to say that the Tunbridge loop is scrapped and we're, you know, willing to discuss what we were calling on this map here, area of interest 3, because it makes sense. It's still located well to the trailhead. I've already spoke to Dave and Judy Lyman. I've already spoke to Scott Walton. I need to follow up with his mom, Sandy Walton, because she's the one that technically owns there. And then I've also already spoken to the folks that live right at the end of Bridge Street. I can't remember, Hoffman's. I've already spoken with the Hoffmans. So the only other 2 properties are the town's garage, which we understand there's some.
Can someone mute?
We're just getting an echo all of a sudden. So
Yeah, hi.
It's Bonnie Claus. Mike and I put some comments or questions in the chat that we'd like you to look at.
Okay.
We might not have, yeah, all right. We can look at those and then maybe add it.
We should give them a chance to.
We'll come back to you. Anyways, so then that gets us to Bridge Street, it keeps us off Route 14. That Gee Hill connector was just a crossing to Gee Hill.
Okay,
From Lyman's, because it's that driveway right there that the Snowmobile Trail.
Yep.
Right now, they cross right there.
Oh, okay.
Same place is the crossing there.
Oh,
So no
okay.
actual traffic on Route 14 there. But so then anyways, we could get to Bridge Street, run up that little piece of the Back River Road, hit the Automero Road, use the Automero Road to come around. Whether it's, I know we would be willing to offer up a little loop trail. That's that little green little spur that I show there that's on our property, off the corner of where the Automero Road and the Oxbow meets. And then come down to Worthy Burger. There's absolutely no, the well sign, no traffic under the underpass. They're, will well sign it that it's only to get to either Worthy Burger or Crossroads. And they've both already said they'd be more than happy to welcome ATVs parking there, even if people aren't frequenting their business. And then they just intend to walk across the tracks and go to any one of the other businesses in town. So that's where I guess that we're at as a club. And then of course, as we go through things and deliberate things, we're working on trying to figure out some stuff with Seawall Brook up there. We understand how sensitive it is. If there's different things that if it makes sense that maybe we go up Davis Road a little bit, maybe there's a way that we can tie on private properties because the McCulloughs have quite a chunk. Maybe there's a way we can hit McCulloughs through the woods. They've already said that we can, whatever it takes to get up to their properties. Mastine's on the other end. They've already said we're good to go there.
So with all the people that you're talking to, you say, I mean, have they signed an agreement to allow access? Because that's what the law requires, right?
I've said to them that they would need to sign this. It's the same as what they would need to do and sign. Like, so those other three, those guys already, I've discussed that it's the same form basically as this vast snowmobile form. It just says VASA on the letterhead. And so same thing that McCulloughs know they would have to sign, Mastine's know they'd have to sign. Our intent is to talk to Kit and Chris McCullough on the other side because they own on the Davis Road side before you hit North Road. So we could get from Mastine's through Kit and McCullough's. There's a little tiny wedge. We got to figure out somebody else owns in there, but we're open to working with you guys. We understand the sensitivity that Seawall Brook has.
So just to clarify, so if we're looking at doing what we were saying, that Bob has made a suggestion about that we pick a certain area, is the area of interest number 3, which you think is the best place for us to start to do that?
I guess I would look to see what you guys, I would ask the members to give me what your gut says is that, or even if you guys said, maybe the only thing you're gonna give me is Gee Hill and that gets us to ride from the trailhead to Goods property.
So are you?
It really doesn't do us much good. Like our goal was to try to get to Barnard, but if we can't get to Barnard, that's fine. I mean,
Well, would that be area 1 and 3 then? Is that what you're saying?
I would think that area 1 and 3, to me, they make sense on a trial basis, but I would ask your guys' opinions of, given where our ability to flush out different conditions or.
I don't have a map. What's our area 1 and 3?
Peter, I emailed it to you just now. You and Richard.
My chat doesn't work. I'm not allowed to go into chat by the administration.
I emailed it to you as well.
Oh, well.
And we emailed it to you, Rick. Rick should have a copy too, because he had to call by phone.
Yeah, I thought I just sent it
So,
too.
so which one is the one that is defined by Automero and the Oxbow?
It's the blue line.
Number
Area
1?
of interest 3, it's the blue line in the maps.
Okay. I understand that you in your messages talked about wanting to be good stewards and things. I think that last week, I brought up a very serious issue about that being a wildlife corridor. So I'm surprised that you're even still considering it. It just doesn't make sense to me to take the most sensitive area in town in terms of ecology and turn that into the main route. because you think that the two restaurants will be good places to park vehicles and such. I think
Peter,
it's
can I ask,
absolutely-
Peter, can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
Are there existing state highways in this bottleneck of what you're considering the wildlife migration corridor?
all right.
No,
Are there
I'm asking,
state highways? No, there are no state highways there.
Well, how would, you were talking about last week, animals getting from the last stands of forests in Vershire through the bottleneck of Royalton to get to the stands of forests in Barnard. So I'm asking,
Correct.
are there highways that these animals would theoretically have to cross to get to make those connections?
Well, after they made it across 89, that they'd have what, 14, and then I don't think there's anything else. Howe Hill's not a, so I don't think there are any other highways, as you say, for them to cross.
Okay, but do you think that they cross like town roads? Do you think that
Of course.
deer and moose and everything else, or any other animals that cross, whether it's Royalton Hill, or do they cross Dairy Hill, or do they cross Seawall Brook Road? I mean, do you think that those roads right now prohibit animals from migrating?
No, they don't prohibit it. It's just that you don't introduce this outside thing to their migration patterns. We don't need to. You've got plenty of room. You'll be able to go north, and I hope you'll be able to go south some too. So you just don't need that one area because it's most environmentally sensitive area, being a wildlife corridor.
Again, it's a town highway. It's a predominantly gravel bed highway.
It actually
and
isn't though. Not
The
that-
Automera Road is
No,
absolutely.
or not Automero. I'm talking about the one that's up Sewellbrook, the one that connects those two Sewellbrooks. Those are barely, I mean, they really should be trails now, because they're not.
That's for
anything
the
closer.
debate by a different. group and
Absolutely. I'm
ordinance.
just saying that when you describe it as these gravel roads, I
But
just want to
the-
make sure that that's clear. It's
The
not.
the Oxbow is a very
Yes.
much predominantly gravel.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
road.
absolutely.
Right.
So do you think there's anything that, is there anything that prevents that road, animals from crossing that road now?
No, I don't see how you understand it. It's not a matter of crossing the road. Of course, they can cross any road. It's that, do you want to put these machines in there in one of their sensitive areas? And I say you don't. You say you do.
It's a town highway that right now people there's groups of these, 20, 30 Jeeps go through it at different times. Do you think that that's disrupted their peace, or do you think that?
It certainly is.
Do
And
you
it's
think
not,
it's disrupted the deer herd, or it's disrupted the breeding of amphibians? I mean, I'm just trying to understand that.
well, I think that you just have to take it at its thing. The Fish and Game and the ANR say that it is an environmentally sensitive area because of the ecology involved in having large animals be able to use freely their access paths. So you don't see it that way, and that's fine. That's your opinion.
Okay, so right now, so getting back, we're gonna look at those two areas of interest. That would be, I just want to be able to go
Yeah,
look
let's
at them
streamline 'em.
outside of this meeting and kind of look, so.
And I guess what we should do is look at if Sewell Brook Road is a high level of contention, then we should look at it. And I guess I was anticipating on, when we get to the survey discussion of, try to highlight, if there's any way that we could highlight, like, do you have specific concern, like, put it right in the survey. Do you have specific concerns with ATVs on Davis Road or on Sewell Brook Road, or
Yeah. And
specific?
then understanding where Peter is saying for the migration. This map is too hard for me. I have a bigger like town map with all the roads, which will be more helpful for me to look at. So
Mhm.
I think I just have to look at that because I'm having difficulty.
I was just trying to use this because this
Yeah.
is the legal official town highway map.
Yeah.
And I certainly can bring in any other map that has like an
I just
aerial
need it
overlay.
bigger with the roads on there,
Yeah.
right? Like that helps me to see it. Yes, I have that in my car. I have this in my car. So I think, so we just have to look at that.
Yep.
Well, I need it a little bit bigger, 'cause it
No,
goes farther down.
Yeah.
Okay.
We should take Bonnie's questions.
Oh,
All right, and I just want to say this, that we have a I wasn't here, of course, for the first part, but we have a section for public comments, which is at the beginning of the meeting with our agenda, but I'm happy to do this time. But I want to make it clear that our public comments time is at the beginning of our meetings, and it cannot be throughout the meeting.
Why
I mean,
not?
because
we
we
don't get
won't
through the
won't ever
agenda.
get our agenda finished. We will never, like select board, even select board, we only do public comments in the
The
beginning,
select board allows for comments from people.
not throughout the whole thing. No, no, no,
That's
no,
been my
no.
experience over the last few, okay.
I mean, we
I mean,
have a
we're
public,
we're here to hear from the public too,
We
right?
absolutely are. There's other ways to communicate that. And if, like, there's gonna be a lot of topics that either we're gonna go over 8 or we're not gonna hit this time. And
right. So people can either submit comments to us, they can come during the agenda time to talk about public comments. So that's how we're gonna get public comments, but we'll never get through our agenda if that's all what we're doing. We've got to like streamline it some. So we definitely want to hear everybody. You can either, we've had people send us emails now or, you know, and so I'm happy to go ahead and recognize you guys. So go
no,
ahead.
we'll start with Bonnie.
Yeah.
Sorry,
And who's there, Bonnie? Who?
Bonnie Claus and Mike Hogan. I think they're on Russ Hill Road.
Okay.
Bonnie, I tried, there you go, are you?
she's still muted.
I hit unmute.
And Russ,
Other questions in the comments?
There's someone.
and Russ who, I'm
Ask
sorry.
to unmute.
Number of questions in the comments,
Okay,
We're getting them.
in the chat.
okay.
Yep, all right,
Oh, identify ourselves.
so there was safety, so there was map, safety. Before meeting ends, please have everyone identify themselves again. I recommend the town roads that are roads where vehicles are not permitted, that they be clearly marked with signage that ATVs are not, that is absolutely standard procedure at any intersection where you don't, you know, when someone comes to an intersection, you want them to clearly know, okay, this is my only legal route. Anything in the wrong direction has numerous signs that ATV is not permitted in this direction. Why not require in the ordinance that ATVs using the town road be registered with the town? That was discussed at different times. It's not the standard procedure. Bakersfield is a town that does it. But as I understand, there's a number of Bakersfield riders who were just given warnings because they actually opened their season in like mid-April or something. And they just got a bunch of warnings this last week from VASA because they didn't have their VASA tags, and VASA says that they own the jurisdiction on the trails. So,
If it's, excuse me, but if it's not a direct VASA trail, their insurance does not cover it.
Even VASA's insurance doesn't cover it, correct?
So in order to open up all the town roads and whatnot, if it's not on a VASA map,
And
they won't cover
And
it.
that's why we also decided we had to be a VASA club, because originally we thought, well, why don't we just be a private club? And then I was like, well, if we need the insurance to go with it, we have to be a VASA club.
And if the town charges for a permit to ride the roads, that kills the VASA insurance.
Yes, but the public would have input on an active,
What did you just say? If the town
That's-
charges,
If the town charges a permit to ride on the roads, other than the VASA trail,
right?
then that voids any VASA insurance.
because then the town is effectively charging to allow a use. So then it probably would go back to the town's insurance if there was some major public property.
You're full of shit.
And if you have VASA.
Excuse me?
What?
I don't think that was necessary.
Yeah,
I guess, are you saying, so you're saying that if you have VASA, if you have insurance through VASA, that it will, this insurance is supposed to cover, assuming that we open up public roads
Mhm.
here, it would cover the whole, not just crossing public roads, but
If we
Right.
put down, if we designate a certain road or whatever,
Mhm.
and it's classified on the VASA maps, then VASA has that insurance that they were talking about, Dave was talking last
Can we
week.
get a copy of that, what that policy looks like, so.
Try to-
that would be great.
We want to go quickly around the, Ian's getting stuff and just introduce ourselves for Bonnie.
Yeah, so Sandy Conrad,
Gidget Lyman.
well,
Pamela Veslin?
Brad six. Tim Parker.
Ian McKenzie.
Peter.
Peter Anderson.
And then Rick.
Did he make it on?
Yeah, he's on,
think
the
he did by
he made it
phone.
by phone.
Yes, I'm here.
Can you say your name for the person on the phone? I mean, on the Zoom?
Yes, Rick Schumann.
So these aren't, these are just their facet policies. I probably could ask to get their specific insurance policy like forms. But like, this is what they give for their information. That's their trail program policy, like how it has to go to run with the insurance. And then it talks about a bunch about their maintenance, but then this is their permission policy, which then talks about the insurance and what to do. And then I probably would, to answer your question, Barry, you're looking for like almost like the accord forms of what the coverage is and how that it applies.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the town's liability
Yeah,
and the liability of or coverage for other people in town who may get into an accident with somebody riding an ATV, and like what the extent of the coverage would be.
Yeah,
Well,
so, so I have the answer to that. So I actually talked to Gidget, who then I think talked to Tim. And she said that we should not deal, this committee should not deal with the running of the ordinance by any lawyer or underwriter. That's the select board's duty. So she told me to tell everybody at the meeting, it's for the select board to decide. So we're just to draft the ordinance, and then they will run it by an ordinance or any lawyer that needs to be and an underwriter for the town's liability.
Then what about liability of citizens? I mean, I'm just.
Well, I mean, I
I'm
think
just
that's
saying
what
that
you
you're
should say to
introducing
select board.
more vehicles to the road. Some of, and if, you know,
Sure.
you have to have insurance to drive your motor vehicle on the roads here.
we have to have insurance to drive
Yeah.
ATVs.
that-
Right.
Yes.
I'm just wondering what the extent of that, of those policies are for, since they don't typically used on regular roads. It's just I think it's a
Well-
legitimate question, but it doesn't have to be answered tonight.
No,
obviously.
and I think, again, I think that's the select board's duty to do, not this committee's duty, though. Like, if you need to know, like, come to a select board meeting and public comments and that, you could ask them that or something, but for us we're just trying to write the ordinance. The liability to the town or the legal aspect of it is not our task, right?
Right.
It's the select board's task.
I mean, I hear from the select board that we're also supposed to be gathering information from all these different committees
Yeah.
and different, state people involved in the state. And I guess that comes back to the question of like, how can we begin to draft an ordinance before we have all that information gathered? And I'm fine with that. I'm not looking into insurance. That's fine to say that, the select board, I hope will do its due diligence
Yeah,
as well.
I think, I think they will. That's what they're there for, right? Like,
Yeah.
our main goal as select board, right, is to make sure the town doesn't get sued, right? That's what we did all the time, like all the time. So we were
Exactly.
always like overseeing all of that and making sure about the liability of the town for whatever laws or ordinance
I
or
know, I
whatever we
would think
put
that
out.
would be really, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just not, so I think for me, I've always wanted to look at the model and go from there in the ordinance, but we're doing it for me a little bit differently. But I think seeing it or knowing it would be helpful. So I don't know which section has about the liability, or does it, I don't know how that's worded in the ordinance that we're looking to choose or looking to write, but for me, that would be helpful. All right, so anything else on map review or public comments that we,
Two participants raised a hand.
oh, okay.
Is there any traffic or crossings on Russ Hill Road? Not at this time. There's no traffic on Russ Hill Road at this time. And then, so Bonnie and Mike still have their hands up.
Okay.
Can you guys hear us? I tried to.
I was just listening to the discussion about insurance and all that, but as someone has had quite a bit of experience in that area, if there's an accident, the organization will get sued, the town will get sued, the individual will get sued who's driving the vehicle, and the owner of the vehicle will get sued. So it's more than just having a club insurance policy in terms of protecting, the innocent people who ultimately get hurt from these accidents. So that's just word to the wise.
Okay, thank you.
But Ian, are people required to have insurance, their own insurance? So in other words, if I register my ATV, I also go through my insurance company to insure my ATV, not through VASA.
Right.
So I pay for my own insurance. It's not through VASA. It's for me personally.
Right, so I need to double check what the cover, I'm sure it's just liability, it's just like the state of Vermont, I'm sure, I made myself a note to go back and double check the statute, so it's probably whatever the statute says, it's the same as for motor vehicles on the highway,
Exactly.
that the minimum liability coverage shall be X. Nothing says that everybody, obviously you have to fully insure your machine, I mean, the minimum is whatever the statute says, I think.
Right.
And whatever, 500,000 or whatever, anyways, it's like your
Vehicle's like
liability.
100, 300 or something.
Right, and then, so then, because VAS's liability insurance coverage is different, where it's $1 million policy that covers, public property damage or,
Right.
Other forms of damage.
But I think like Newport's ordinance requires it's registered and everybody carries insurance.
Well, it doesn't specifically say that.
doesn't?
And then, of course, I don't have my copy of what I had adapted from Williamstown and Chelsea, but, no, it just talks about all the statute 23 of the VSAs, headlights, mufflers. Anyways.
So let's be respectful of Loretta's time too. Does anybody have any other more questions for Loretta?
Do you foresee having to have more help during the busier days and months that the trails will be used?
I would hope so. I have a young gentleman in the process now. We'll see. I mean, it's a long process, so. Yeah, I would really love if somebody was certified and wanted to come to work. That would be great.
So if you know anybody.
So, I mean, generally, we used to have 3 officers on the payroll,
We have
correct?
2.
We have 2 now.
Yeah, I'm looking for one. Yeah.
The idea is that if we had, we have the budget for 3, right? So it's just a matter of making sure we get,
Well, it's the matter of people applying.
yeah.
It's just everybody's short. So you want a job? Yeah. there you
I'd love to be a cop, that'd be fun.
go. You say that.
Well, and the unfortunate thing is probably, probably in all honesty, you answer us, probably what, 80% of your job is responding to social stuff, not so much responding to traffic or highway violations, correct?
75 to 80%.
Yeah. So it's not so much the traffic on the roads as it is we really need what we need in getting off topic. We need more social workers in this that have
Mental
power.
health specialists, social workers, all of the
Yeah.
above.
Anyways,
Any other comments on that?
Mike, you still have your hand up or were you good? Okay, I'm guessing good.
All right,
Um,
all right. Anything else on the map? So we can. move
nope,
on?
nothing on maps. Thank you, Loretta. so
Yeah,
much.
thank you
Anytime.
so much, Loretta.
Thank you.
Okay, so then I saw that you guys added the review of the Newport ordinance and then the survey discussion.
I would say, why don't we just hand out the Newport ordinance?
And then we can like
apologize, I
look
didn't see
at
it
it
this
later.
morning.
Yeah.
We'll look at it and we can discuss it
Yeah,
next
'cause
week.
I never had it.
So this is the unfortunate thing, when I just made the copies out on the copier, I didn't hit collate. So I'm gonna hand you guys,
Oh, we'll keep doing it. Okay.
Yeah. so here's page 1.
All right. very good.
And take
Yeah, I
one,
can't even tell you how many times I've done that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
so one for you, and you get one, and you get one, and you get one. Perfect, I did 6 copies. I knew I get one.
And Rick, I think he sent, Rick and Peter, did you guys get that as an attachment?
I haven't looked for that yet.
Page two.
Okay.
It was on this morning's email
He-
at
he-
7.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he sent it out
Page
first
2?
thing this
Oh,
morning.
yes, okay, yep, that one.
Responded to your email, it's very small, and when I try and blow it up, it's illegible. I can't really read the map.
Yeah, I said I thought mine looked bad.
I can do a different format, as we go forward and put it on a different background so that something everyone's
Perfect example is just.
more familiar because,
If you hadn't got permission
Hey,
for
you know what?
everybody up to a school book and all that,
Well,
pages
and they just eliminated that tonight,
boy, what's that?
if the landowner gets.
Hold on, one, yeah,
And all of a sudden they're shut down. Yeah.
Well, Tim, what was that? Just so we all.
You could just hand that.
Pamela
around.
was
Save
asking
a lot.
why you hadn't got permission from everybody that was on it. And it's like Bob just made a point with it. A very limited trail section right now. So a lot of landowners, if they get excited that, they're thinking the trail's coming right by them,
Correct.
then all of a sudden it.
That's,
I mean,
it gets
a
shut
lot of
down.
these roads must get Jeeps on them. I mean, I see Jeeps go by my house, whole line of them.
Well, sure, and on the busy Jeep
Are you
weekend,
sending, are you giving us the same
it's,
thing?
it's absolutely
Oh,
busy.
it looks-
It's like we
Yeah,
can't
they
get,
can work it out.
can't get it in and out of our
put that one
driveway.
down. So this is 2019.
Those
Oh.
were their planned ahead of the summer, the big one they had last
I see what
summer.
you're
Oh,
saying.
If
I thought
that
you gave me
comes back
page
this
two.
year,
No, I don't
we'll
have.
make plans to be out of town for a
Have
weekend.
Well, one of my thoughts is that if there's gonna be a big ride, say, say the.
So this is
18th
page 2. So what I gave you first was the most recent ordinance. Now I'm giving you the first ordinance. Remember, we were discussing how Newport started small.
Oh, and
Then they expanded.
out.
Brad, the other copies are there to
Yeah.
pass
Oh,
around.
you
But the other one's the other page.
got some
yeah.
here.
Oh, these are
And then-
new ones.
Yep.
I saw page
Three.
1. I was like.
So the
page three.
newest one is 1 to 4 and the oldest one is 1 to 3. So 1 to 3 is the first one they drafted, and then 2021 is when they made an amendment.
Yeah, and so I included it because it was attached. So here's the copy of the amendment.
7 pages total.
Yeah, that's 5. But there's gonna be. So they, and I included, so this is, that's.
This is how they made the amendment.
Well, this is how they made the amendment, and it's important because when they did the amendment, that is where the attachments for this, and I was explaining before how they literally wrote the city of Newport down as being like, from what they described it, this is.
Of the
effective-
boundary line.
Well, this is effectively getting them on, is basically naming them as an additional named insured. Because
Oh.
they made this permission slip out to the town. So this is, it's basically the same landowner permission, they just wrote it to the town, and I don't know, that's what they believe, that's what their lawyers, I don't know.
Hold that vision.
That's what they did.
Okay, there you
That's what I found.
go. Okay. Thank you. All right, so we'll review this and I'll put this back on the agenda for next week. That work?
I would say that, and I mean,
Or do we
yeah,
want,
let's just review this one for next week.
all right,
And then, but we haven't technically really reviewed the VLCT
Yeah.
model yet either.
all right.
We should probably pretty much almost do like a side-by-side
Was the
comparison. That is-
planning committee or conservation committee come in next week? Was
I'm
that set
still
up?
waiting to hear from both of them. I'm hoping to get at least one of them.
Peters
So-
are,
Old business from last week, I did reach out to Jens Hilke. That was one of my tasks.
Oh, right.
And I have not heard back from him, but I'm gonna continue to follow up.
Okay,
So maybe I'll have
excellent.
some more
Thank you.
information about
I
that.
will go, I was gonna go over the minutes. That helps us to do that.
Yep.
too. So what, I didn't catch that again, though. So we're gonna review the Newport ordinance, and what do you want to do in tandem with that?
should review the Vermont League of Cities and Towns.
Oh, the ordinance that came in
their
our
the
folder
model
packet?
that they, I mean, that is what they are the state entity that,
So that was what we were given in our packet.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so everybody should have a copy of that.
And I think you emailed that out, or somebody did.
It might have
in the
been
first-
Victoria.
In the
Brown.
original email that came out.
All
Yeah,
right, so we can look
And the
at
map.
tandem
I
like
think
that.
you
But do
emailed
we
us.
want to do that after we've heard from the planning commission and the conservation
Uh,
committee? What does this committee think?
maybe it makes sense to table it for
Yeah.
another week or two. I'm
Until
not
we,
opposed to that, but again, it's just, everybody should be starting to look at it, so they're seeing what there are for what the structure is.
Because correct me if I'm wrong on this committee, but the goal is to try to do as much information gathering as we can for this month. And then focus on the writing of the ordinance in the month of June.
Yep.
Does that sound right still?
Mhm.
And I do want to be cognizant to get public comments. So I think what I'll have Victoria do is when she sends out stuff to specifically say what time we can do that. And yes, a person can ask a question. Absolutely. It's not public comments that the select board does, but if they're talking about a specific topic and somebody comes and is interested in that, the board will recognize that person. So absolutely right. But just to do public comments, just to say what they're feeling or what they're doing, that's fine. I'm happy to recognize anybody that comes that has a question about a topic we're talking about on the agenda. Okay,
Right.
so just to clarify that. Okay, so
And can we adjust the time allotment for public comments?
Yes,
'Cause we have
sure.
10 minutes now. As this moves forward,
So
I mean, we
did
could have
anybody
taken longer
have
if
any-
anyone, only Mike Hogan. I don't know if,
Was there other, I'm
Joe,
sorry, I
you said
wasn't.
anything.
here, I don't
So
know that.
Mike did bring up at first, he was, he was concerned with trucks and trailers noise. And then he said that there was people riding on the property across from him this past weekend and they were so noisy that he had to shut his windows.
Okay, alright.
And thought that that
so that's
was,
good.
and then we
Okay.
discussed the email. that
And I
Victoria
absolutely
sent.
can put a longer length of time in, but what do you think is appropriate if there's only two people or?
yeah, no. I'm just thinking as we move forward, because we ended up with a lot of public comments later
Today.
on.
Okay.
Maybe we'll, in some of our announcements, soliciting public comments, we'll make sure that they know.
Right,
Because a lot of people aren't reading the agenda beforehand as far as public. So if we can,
well, it
You know,
kind of
to-
comes with the Zoom. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got it, like, you have to look at the agenda to get the
Right.
Zoom
Gotcha.
information though. I mean, it's attached to the top of it, so
Okay.
it's right there. I mean, that's how it comes out with the agenda and that's what gets posted everywhere, but I mean, I really will try to get as many comments as we can, but I don't want us to lose track and be here till 10 o'clock at
Right.
night.
Right.
Right. All right, and then survey discussion, have you guys been talking about that?
so the only thing that I brought up was just that I was thinking there would, just what I was trying to think might work well is do an in-town survey and then do an out-of-town survey, something that I can post on like our 802 side-by-side group that we're in on Facebook that has a fair number of members, and or the New England ATV that has probably 10,000 members. I mean, and just try to solicit, you get an idea of out of town, like, we could come up with some questions of like,
Like if you had an open trail, would you come and use it or something
Right.
like that?
well, right, I mean,
All right,
probably have a couple more steps, And then the unfortunate thing is like Vasa, I've asked them numerous times, they have not to this day done a economic impact study, like
businesses.
snowmobiles, and they've worked through tourism enough that they know. So when I messed up during town meetings, what the number that I read in reading the way the report was written, I read it wrong, where it was recreation in the state of Vermont is 2 billion a year now. Snowmobiles are 550. I gotta go back and look at it. I want to say that they said it was 500 million a year in snowmobiles if they looked at like outdoor recreation, motorized. But it was a Times Argus article from 2019. There isn't anything that I've seen published more recently, and it had like the Secretary of Tourism and everything else. Anyways, but it would be good to, I can put in the out of town one, how often do you ride out of town? How often do you consider riding in Vermont? How often do you consider,
Where do you ride mainly?
yeah, do you generally go to ride parks, trails, towns that have, gravel roads, forested roads, maybe try to come up with a couple of questions. What I was gonna say is, if you guys are okay, I can, draft a survey, or if you guys tell me any other questions, and then, show you just like, I can give you a link to it, and then maybe not next week or the week after,
We could
keep-
add questions.
add questions, and then at least that way everyone can kind of see the format, how it would look online, and then start,
I think if we want to get public comment before we start writing this, hopefully by the beginning of June, we want to get that out as soon as we can.
yeah.
So I would think we want to discuss those next week, so
Yeah.
those can get put up, then we can
Yeah.
start going.
So we'll
ahead.
put a time on for our survey questions, and anybody that has suggestions, and that Peter and Rick, you guys, if you have that, then it would maybe be, yeah, I guess we could just do it that way and then go from there. So you're gonna send us, so we have a start, not at 7 o'clock on the morning.
I'm sorry.
So a little bit more notice, because I mean, I'm at work by 7 and I go
No,
till like
I know.
7 at night.
I
So
was gonna send it at midnight last night when I finished typing it.
it
I
wouldn't
hit-
have helped me.
I hit delayed send.
I was
It's been
thinking
crazy.
that.
I've been crazy the last 2 weeks.
So yeah, why don't you send that, and then people have ideas of what you want on the survey, because I know, Brad, you also, there was a survey, was that what it was that you'd seen before that we were talking about doing?
Yeah, Williamstown actually did a mailer,
Yeah.
which I don't think that would be very effective.
Well, I don't think we got the money to do that.
And I think
here.
they just did it as like, and that was when they were trying to get ready for the vote. And I think it was like I don't remember, we'll have to go back and look, but I don't remember if it was.
So yeah, if you could get us started and send that out, and then people come if you have 1 or 2 questions you want to add to it. We don't want to make it too long, right? When somebody sees it's a 4-page survey, they probably aren't going to answer it.
Yeah.
But let's, maybe if we could limit it to even 2 pages. Then we could send it out to our website, Front Porch Forum. I don't know, we can try all the online things we can think of to send them out to. Okay, so shall we go to the minutes then, approve the meeting minutes? I just had a couple of stuff to correct and add maybe on there. So on the first page, I just thought we should go ahead and put Gidget's name in there under section 4
Okay, hold on. sorry, just a
instead of
second.
GL. I know you said.
Oh, did I
that.
not, did I have a
I
title
didn't
for
bring
that?
copies.
Yeah, well, you just have GL. I think it's good to at least
Do you
write
guys have copies?
Gidget.
I'm
or-
sorry, I
Last week's
meant to, I meant to.
Yeah, I
Um,
know you did.
That was
Can-
a mistake.
Yeah.
Can I just,
What'd
Sandy,
you say?
Yeah.
sorry to pause it. Can I,
Yeah.
I don't have I didn't bring copies of the minutes. Can I take your,
You can look mine afterwards and then. you
I was gonna
can
say,
do
or I can go make copies real quick for us.
it. You-
Oh.
Yeah, okay.
Well, and I will make sure I hit the
I
code.
mean, I already
button.
got your, I have your
Okay.
comments already.
You sent
so-
yours,
Yeah,
but it's
okay.
good to
But they're
like,
really updates. Oh, it's here. I do see. it.
it's
Thank
good
you.
it's good to make your suggestions for the minutes. I was gonna tell you in the meeting so that we can all say, yeah, we
Oh,
agree to that, right?
okay.
Like, so,
Yep.
All right,
all right.
changing that.
And then on the second page down under select boards from neighboring towns, it was Claude Wyant, and he's actually of the Windsor County Sheriff's
Thank you.
Department captain, not Sharon.
And my notes could have been wrong.
Yeah, this was my same comment, was to put it up under law
Oh,
enforcement, maybe not so much under towns.
Okay, so is it, so we're gonna,
Thank you.
yeah, we're gonna move Claude Wyant under law enforcement.
I've
too,
got
so
it.
That's a good point, good point. Okay, let me know if you're ready for the next one.
I'm ready.
Okay, under legal and insurance, that is Paul Giuliani. And that's, he's actually related to the New York Giuliani, Giuliani.
Oh, I have spelled it.
I was like, whoa, and he's, I don't know if you guys want to put, but he's a Primer, Piper, Eggleston, and Kramer. That's who he's right. And then I already talked about Victoria saying about the ordinance, but that doesn't, if you, that'll be in our minute meeting minutes for next week. And then I think it might be nice to go ahead, when we said we proposed a website, so it might be good to add those in there, that website, so that people can see it in there as well too.
Got it.
And then the only other thing I wanted to add under Peter's comment was we did question and ask about the seasonal migration times and animals, and I know that that was, Brad, something you're working on to try to get that information, but I just think we should have added that that was asked of Brad to do that.
Will you say, will you repeat?
That we asked about the seasonal migration times.
Okay.
And, animals. We know the place, right? So just learning maybe about
Got
the
it.
seasonal migration times and animals.
Thank you.
Yep. And then this is just word editing under section 7, down by where it says Ian said he is trying to get some comments. So just take out B and then put, it's Chris Bump. I think Victoria knew that last name and threw it in there, but it's Bump. from B-Trans.
Tell me, section 7 where.
Section 7, go down below the road use data, non-ATV traffic, and then just the single sentence line of Ian said he is trying to get some comments from Chris Bump. It says to be, get to be.
Oh, no, I really did mean to say he's trying to be some comments.
Oh.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then, it's Bakerfield charges $10 per access commit. So farther down under projected use ATVs, it says Bob ? Stockbridge Club has numbers.
Somebody said,
Was Bob gonna look that up or something?
no,
This Bob?
and now
Oh.
I don't even think it was Bob that said it.
Oh.
I think it was
Dave Lewis
Yeah,
that
Dave.
said that
that they did know their numbers.
So maybe just clarify then that David Lewis was he gonna check and get our Stockbridge Club
I
number?
think he was gonna get us what their
All right,
active
so
numbers
let's just clarify that.
And then the Bakersfield thing, yeah, I don't know if I comment on that. That was just in the discussion that
They charged it $10.
they're one of the few towns, I think, in the state that has a separate town.
A lot of them revoked them this year.
Yeah, they did.
Lowell did it. I think Montgomery did it.
I mean, you think it's because of the insurance issue?
That's one of them. And the other one was where the dump is, Coventry.
Oh, yeah.
They too. They all had permits. It cost you $10 and you could ride basically any other road. But because of that whole vast insurance thing, seriously.
So is that
the guy, that's
something
what he was
we
saying.
still want to look at or look at? Are we looking at that?
I think we can discuss it when we hit that section
Get
in
to
the
that part?
ordinance.
Yep.
Okay, all
Yep.
right. And then we already talked about the survey, so that's great. You guys are working on that. And then on the very last page, in the first part, it just said Ian said he obtained, so I just said get rid of get. You like get for some
Where did I
reason.
put it?
You like-
You get, oh, God,
Yeah.
sorry.
And yeah, so, and I think it should say I think it should say Newport ordinances there too.
Okay, so Ian said he'd obtain a copy of the Newport ordinance, which
Yeah.
he now has done, so.
Yeah.
Now we just made it come true.
Yes,
All right,
that's right.
sorry. I went through this so many times.
I think you did, well, you.
did great.
You were trying to get it
Yeah.
done.
It's not really.
We're not here to
It's
criticize.
very detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too
More detailed than I
like,
would've
it
done.
doesn't need to be-
Yeah,
You don't need to be that
Yeah,
detailed.
Good.
yeah,
'cause I-
yeah. And listen, we used to do things like, and then the discussion ensued, right? Like, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to capture everything that was said, and then you just try to summarize it at the end, right? So you don't have to capture all
And
that.
that's so much better.
And maybe in some of that, and like, with my response, I didn't mean to be so wordy, but there's some things like in the wording, like, I didn't want anybody like to misconstrue certain things, and then it's.
Ian said he didn't care about people who lived on Silbrook Road.
So we put it in the minutes, and there you go.
We got it on
All right.
record.
So, and then so does somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes with any corrections? Is there any that you had added that I didn't talk about?
I don't have my,
Oh,
Do you want me to
Pam's got
pull
them,
up the
whatever,
ones that- I can pull up the ones that you sent if you wanna,
yeah,
pull it
I
up
have
over here.
I have it
Oh, yeah.
right here. I have it
You
right
could
here.
throw them in the chat. I can't, there was just one that was like a redundant paragraph, and there was just some discuss. I didn't know that we really discussed like trying to get input from other towns. So that kind of fell in the way you formatted it, which it was just that was in the input section to get. So are we actually gonna look for input from other towns? Because that's what I just want to be clear on, is that.
do you remember what that discussion was? There was like, there was a whole lot of like, here's a bunch of stuff we're gonna get. And then the only reason I know that I wrote it down because somebody was talking about it, but I don't remember who it was. That, I mean, because isn't that part of the plan needs to involve other towns as well? So, I don't know, what do you guys, what should I do with that?
So as we grow, I mean, like, so right now, like, say, for instance, with, just enlisting Sharon, Stratford, and Bethel, those are towns that have no foreseeable, use right now. The only town I could see that would make sense, so we have it in writing. There is one new select board member, they're a select board of 3. When I had met with them previously in September, they're the ones that steered us towards trying to connect via Russo Road.
as opposed to the East Barner thing. So, I mean, probably just for the due process of what this committee, to make sure that we're getting input, it's what's been obtained through this committee.
Mhm.
We probably should get Barnard comments or see if they're still of that opinion that if we get to Russo Road, are they gonna let us go down Russo Road and connect into the Stockbridge system?
Okay, so take Sharon, Tunbridge, Stratford out of it. But you
And
still,
And
and
Bethel.
Bethel. But that,
And Chelsea's, they're at I think they've got a petition that they're at a point, they're gonna go to a second town meeting and that's, I mean, they're, you know, and they're further isolated by Tunbridge. We're not, you know, there's no direct connection
Oh,
to
yeah.
Chelsea. Anyway, so I just in, you know, talking out loud is, I would agree that if we're gonna get input, it's probably just solely Barnard. We could get input and I could either follow up on emails I've already got with Rob Ram, I won't say Ramathorn, but Rob Ramrath, he's their administrator administrator.
Okay, and
He's
then,
good. I've gone back
Well,
and
you-
forth with him on a few things and he's very responsive. and,
Yeah, or your same thing, I would probably just go back to the last email that he had with both of us
Yeah,
and just say, hey, Rob, can we get on the agenda? Or can you get an official comment at the next select board meeting? You know, in regards to the potential of our club looking to connect via the route that was discussed at the September 19th meeting.
so Rick writes, because he's on the call, he couldn't get in by the Zoom, but he just wants to, if there's a way you could just tell us what roads you're actually proposing. You know, like send it out to us later on the
Yep,
map.
yep,
Okay, so
yep.
that will help us.
Yeah, I'll do a clean map and a clean list.
Yeah, and he just wants to say he's in favor of this ordinance being voted on every year, at least having that language in the ordinance. And he believes, and he's wants to see if it's McIntosh or Pepperell Road because he believes they've already had ATV issues there. So he wants to discuss that. So I don't know if they're including McIntosh or Pepperell.
That would be in the Tunbridge route, which I don't think is viable at this time.
So
If
Rick,
we're gonna keep this
Yeah, in
limited.
this section. So Rick, it sounds like that section currently isn't in discussion for section.
use.
For use, not yet. Okay, I think those were his comments. Okay, anything else on the meeting minutes? All right, so someone want to make a motion to approve our May 4th meetings with the corrections?
I'll send you the
Motion
corrections.
approved.
All right, motion made and
I'll second.
seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Okay.
I just want to say, if you guys could get to me by Friday, Victoria did say that she doesn't have to post it until Monday and will still be within our legal time. So if I could just know by Friday or even Saturday at the latest, then I can give it to her. And she said that she'll post it first thing on Monday morning. So if anybody has something on the agenda, I will add who's going to come and speak, add some more time to public comments time, and keep the space open for other business for anything we want to add on. Is that okay with everybody?
Mhm.
All right.
Yep.
And I think that's it. So I'll put on for the survey discussion if you have some of those questions by then, because we want to get that out as soon as we can, at least to show we got some feedback there too.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay,
And just, you know, we do have 5 meetings in June. So I
yeah,
mean,
so that's helpful.
you could get to the second June meeting to, you know, set that as
Should
our,
we start
you know,
writing it?
wordsmithing at
Yes,
that point.
yeah, it is nice that it falls on. We have 5 Wednesdays for June. And then, I'm sorry, I missed this. Was this just another thing that we got for comment, this Civia?
Yeah.
That
special
was
event?
something that Peter wanted to have.
Okay, good.
But that Loretta and those guys to have.
Okay, good. So,
So-
and then we should add that to, like, I like keeping all of our documents in that one website.
Absolutely.
I think that's the best way, and everybody can reference it and find it. All right, so if you just send out to us like the specific roads, that would be helpful for me.
yes.
That's the best way I can picture it, and I'm gonna get my
Yeah.
town map and then I
Yep.
can look at it by roads.
Yep.
Okay. All right, anybody have anything else? We're still pretty good on time. All right, thanks, everybody. Thank you,
Thank you.
Peter. Thank you, Rick, on the phone.
Motion adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Good night,
Good night,
Jojo.
Thanks, Jojo.
Jojo, I sent you that link, so you should. have
Thank
it.
you.
All right, how much are you, Sandy?
Huh?
How much are you, the